And now the exciting conclusion of Who Trashed My Boat?
This is the story of a boy who in his teens started selling sunfish. In his 30s, he sailed with a friend on his Catalina 27. In his 40s, he bought a Hobie 16, which he sailed every year at the beach for a week. Also in his 40s, he bought a Catalina 27, followed by a Morgan Out Island 41. He sailed the Morgan Out Island for more than 16,000 miles until his 60s when he sold it. He then bought a Hobie 21 SE, which kept him happy for a while, but then he bought a Beneteau 50.4, which he started sailing. And he's sailing it by himself, so sailing solo at 70 is me, David Fansler. Only now I'm 71.
Well, good morning to you. This is the morning of the second night. Let's see, I left on Wednesday at 1:39. It's now Friday, about 8:30 or so in the morning. The trip has been quite uneventful. In a straight line, I've covered 195 nautical miles, but I haven't been going in a straight line, so I've covered more than that. My average boat speed has probably been around 5 knots or so. We've had moments of upwards of 8, but that gets a little wild. Right now we're doing just over 6 knots, and we're about 100 miles from Sicily and Malta. The area between Sicily and Malta is where I will turn west and head more or less straight down the Mediterranean. I had been going in sort of a straight line from Lefkis to the area between Sicily and Malta, but the forecast for the winds are to change within this day, and it would put me straight into the wind if I continued on that course. So rather than risking that, I've turned more south and am headed down, south. And as the winds change, they will be in my favor as I make the turn westward toward the opening of the Mediterranean. Now, I'm not going all the way to North Carolina in the first go. I'm going to stop in Gibraltar. The new sail that I've ordered will be there sometime either before I get there or after I get there. Once it comes and I get it installed and I have to move the jib tracks around, then I'll be ready to finish the trip across the ocean to North Carolina. So it's entertaining. I had a little birdie come visit me yesterday. It was kind of strange to look up and see him sitting in the corner. He didn't seem real afraid of me. I tried to offer him some water and bread, but he declined, and eventually he flew off. I've tried my hand at fishing some. Haven't had any success with that, but I'm going to put the lure back out anyway. Who knows, I may catch me something nice to eat. Sleeping. The first night I slept in the cockpit off and on until it got too cold to stay up here. So I decided to go below, and I did, and slept in one of the aft cabins. I set a timer for 1 hour, and every hour I'd get up and check to make sure everything was going smoothly, and it seemed to be. So I did that the rest of the night. Of course, that was only 3 hours worth. Last night, I didn't even bother to sleep in the cockpit. I just did 8 o'clock, 8:30, something like that. I headed on down and crawled into bed, set the timer for an hour, and did that a couple of times and finally said, forget it, and just turned the timer off and woke up at 7:30 this morning. Part of the comfort with all of this and sailing in the boat is a system called AIS, and as I understand it stands for Automatic Information Systems. And what it does is that every boat, well, all the big ones at least, and many of the smaller ones like this, carry a transmitter receiver that broadcasts data about the boat and where it is. So since this is a sailboat, when my image comes up on someone's AIS system, it shows Dragonfire, it shows that I'm 16 meters long, and that I'm a sailboat. The other boats mostly are cargo boats, and that's what they come up as, is cargo boats. What I have noticed is that when a cargo or an oil tanker, the two of those I've seen, come up on the display, they may be headed straight for me, but they will veer off a little bit to give me a wide berth and not interfere with my sailing. I bought a Global Star satellite phone before I left. I would go to Grenada, and it hadn't worked for garbage cans. Just a piece of trash as far as I'm concerned. And of course, the excuse that Global Star has is that I'm not in their area of coverage. Greece is not in the area of coverage. I mean, one of the oldest civilized nations in the world, and I'm not in their area of coverage. I did manage, interestingly enough, out in the middle of the ocean yesterday, or the Mediterranean Sea, managed to connect and was able to talk to Mary for a few minutes before the signal went away. Knowing that I wasn't going to have a whole lot of luck with a Global Star sat phone, I bought an Iridium Go, which is a small device. In fact, here it is. And it connects through the Iridium satellite system, which is much larger than the Global Star system. And while you can talk on it, it's far better and less expensive to use it to send text or emails. So I've been doing that, and in addition to that, it also will send your location on intervals of your choosing. So every 4 hours, this system sends out where I am to Mary and to my son John and to a friend I made back in Lefkis, who was very worried about whether I was going to make it or not. So that gives them the ability to see where I am every 4 hours, and that eases their mind. This unit also has an SOS button on the side. Well, it's hiding under there. And if you press that, it sends out a signal to the Geo Satellite Alliance that monitors this type of thing. Another unit is called an EPIRB, Emergency Personnel Beacon, and it sends where you are and that you're in trouble. It doesn't tell you what kind of trouble, just you're in trouble and you need help. So this is a great thing to have in case I get in trouble, which is, you know, I'm not expecting any trouble, but interestingly enough, I'm currently sailing in over 2 miles deep water. The Mediterranean is amazingly deep. It's over 11,000 feet deep where I am currently. So it's early Saturday afternoon, and the sea state is, well, it's a little rough. Seas are probably running 2 meters as they go by. It's always hard to see this. It's never as impressive on video as it is in real life. Here comes a nice one.
As Saturday night progressed, the sea state became greater and greater. The wind started picking up, and at about 1:30 in the morning, is when things took a turn for the worst for me. The winds had reached speeds of 45 knots. The seas were running 9 feet. And so I decided that even though the sails were double reefed, that it was time to take them down. In order to take down the jib, I had to let it go. And when I did, it got hung up in some other lines and I wasn't able to pull it all the way in. And without being able to pull the jib in, I couldn't point the boat into the wind and be able to take down the mainsail. So at that point, I was stuck with the jib out, with the mainsail out, and running in high winds. So I started the engine and headed north to Sicily. And so I sat at the helm from 1:30 in the morning until about 11:30 the next morning. And these are shots of the seas later in the morning. And so I came into a port in Sicily, only before I could turn into it, I was turned away. I was told I couldn't come into the port, and I told them that I was in distress, that the boat was in distress, and they basically said it didn't matter, and I wasn't allowed in. So after telling him thank you, I turned the boat and headed west to find the next port. The Italian Coast Guard came out and informed me that I could go back to that port that I had just left, and I told them that I'd been told I could not go to that port, and they were kind of aghast at the situation. They checked with the port and then told me again that I could go back to that port, and I told them I'd rather not, because that meant that I would have had to have turned and headed back into the wind and waves, which I had just pounded through for the past 12 hours. They told me where the next port was, and they left at that point. So the next port was about 20 miles away, and at the speed I was going, that was only about 3 hours. And once I got there and tied up, I was greeted by 5 Italian Coast Guard gentlemen who took me into custody and took me to their office, which was right nearby, and wanted to know why I didn't stop at the first port. And it took me quite a while to explain to them the situation, and that I was told I couldn't go into that port, and that while the Coast Guard went ahead and did clarify I could, I didn't want to head back into the wind and waves. Eventually, after about an hour, they got it cleared up. They were satisfied with my explanation. They had also done a search of the boat when I first tied up to the dock, and I was released, and all is well. The sails are down. They are headed to a sail maker for evaluation. I have a tremendous bruise on my back, right lower side, kidney area, from where I was thrown one time into the steps downstairs. It was a good adventure. At no point did I become scared or nervous. I have utmost confidence in this boat, and look forward to the next part, which is heading on to Gibraltar once I get the sails done. I'm about a third of the way, and having a good time. So until next time, when I get to Gibraltar, or maybe I'll do a video of here in Sicily. Everyone take care. Thank you for watching. Hit the like button, even better, hit the subscribe button. And thanks so much for being here with me. This is David saying so long.